Hello, this is E, aka E-Man, aka E-Man47, aka Ungoverned Records. Yeah, there's a lot more aliases I go by, but they're not appropriate for the channel. So, today I just wanted to run over a beat that I not long made. Well, I made it yesterday. I started making it yesterday, and then I finished, had some other stuff to do, but I haven't completed the track yet. But I just wanted to go through it. So anyway, thanks for joining me in this video. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to have plenty more of this and plenty more beat uploads as well. But let's get to it anyway. So I originally started off this beat not meaning to make this beat for a start. I had a machine in front of me, and I had a piano out. I had the grandeur on machine. I just show you that comes with, I've got complete Ultimate 10, and that's one of the pianos that comes with it. And I thought, right, let's get the piano out and start playing. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I don't really have, sometimes I might have an idea in my head of what music I'm going to make, but it just depends what mood I'm in. I just literally get the machine out, or I get the piano out and just start playing. But on this occasion, I started playing and I hit a wrong note. And these are the original notes I had here for the piano. As you can see, they're not on time completely. I wanted to give, because once I started making it, I mishit the note, and then I was like, actually, that sounds quite nice. So anyway, let's show you what the piano actually sounds like. Obviously with some nice reverb on there as well. And that literally will run on a 4-bar loop pretty much the whole track. That's it. Because when I made it, I was like, right, this is starting to sound like, not necessarily sample, but it does have that sort of feel to it. It has that old school early 90s hip-hop vibe. So I was like, right, okay. So I originally made it with these 3 notes here. And then what I did is I dropped down the lowest one and created an octave for that to fill out the low end. And then I also added some high-end notes as well, just to complement it and to fill out the melody. So with that was the piano. So then I don't usually go straight onto the bass after that. Usually I go to the drums and maybe a side melody or supporting melody or something like that. But for this case, I was just like, right, I can really hear some bass on this, some dark, moody bass. So what I used for the bass was Dope VST's bass engine, 3 decades of hip-hop bass. Great little VST. I picked it up for I think it was $50 or something like that. I can't remember. I'll leave a link in the description for their website as well. And as you can see, you get loads of presets here. They've labeled it from the 90s to the early 2000s to the 2010s. So you get a lot of variation in there. So the reason for using this is that the basses are real gritty. Especially the 90s ones are real gritty, grimy. They sound sampled. And I thought that would very, very much complement the track in itself. So I originally did it in machine, but I ended up taking it to the MIDI and just playing it like this. And again, the bass loops for a 4-bar loop. And I wanted it to give it that bounce, that little bounce to it. And in a sense, I wanted it to sound a little bit like jazz. It had that little had that little bounce to it to complement it, as though it was an old school tune where they'd sampled a bass from a jazz track or something like that. With the piano along with the bass, I didn't quantize any of it. I didn't want to. I don't generally do it unless I'm making more of sort of a modern track or something a bit more polished. This, I didn't want it to be polished. I wanted to give it a rough, raw sound. So I don't know if you can see, but a lot of the keys hit off beat, or just, well, basically slightly off beat to give it a more authentic live feel. The same goes for the piano as well. I didn't quantize any of that just to give it a better feel. So after that, I was like, this needs to be polished off with some vinyl crackle. So what I did was I knew I had some in here somewhere, and I got some from the Iconic Hip Hop Drums Volume 1 sample pack. I can't tell you where I got it from because I don't know whose it is. I've signed up to a monthly subscription producer thing. So they're there was like some cool drums in here. It's like loads of hi-hats, loads of kicks and stuff. And then they had some bonus stuff, which was some crackle and cymbals. And I used one of them and literally just did the same again. I just changed the envelope on that, the volume envelope here, just changed that out and just run it straight for a 4-bar loop again, just to go straight all the way through and just loop over along with the piano. So which sounds like this. It just fills out the ambience of the track as well to give it that grimy, that old school feel. So yeah, then once that was in place, I was like, well, obviously it's time for the drums now, and I actually used drums from that pack as well. Originally I just got the machine out and just did a classic sort of real simple beat with the kick and the snare. I like the drums in this; they're quite rough. And then what I did was I just had one 4-bar loop, and then I created another one of the kick, and just did a slight different variation at the end here, as you can see from this one here. I just changed it up a little bit slightly, just to keep the track flowing and keep, because I knew this was going to be a repetitive track, going for that old school, that sampled feel. I knew it was going to be the track was going to sound similar all the way through. So I thought if I change it up to 2 sets of 4-bar loops, I did that with the hi-hat as well, which I'll go on to next, just to give it more of a authentic feel. So then I chucked the hi-hats in, just a standard 2-step hi-hat all the way, apart from at the end I think I switched it up. And as you can see there, what I was doing, I was cutting away certain elements throughout the track. See, I dropped out the kick and the hi-hat there, taking a little bit of the hi-hat out of here, dropped out a bit of piano, a bit of bass, and just chopped it up pretty much all the way through the track, just to just add variation to the track, because obviously, as I said, it was going to be repetitive, so I wanted to give a little variation to the track, and it just livens it up a bit. And if you listen back to some of those like tracks in the 90s, it's a very common thing that you'd hear in it, especially listen to things like classics like Shook Ones Part 2 by Mod Deep. Just listen to the instrumental and you'll hear the little dropouts of certain elements of the track. It just keeps that vibe flowing, even though the track's pretty much similar the whole way through, but they put more life into it by cutting separate little bits out here and there and just mixing it up. Keeps the track alive, takes away the repetitiveness of it. Anyway, also what I did was I put a lot of swing on the track, for the patterns for the kicks and the snares and the hi-hats, etc., to give that more of a bounce, more that old school feel. And I also added some time shift to each element as well, also to add that same, just knock it off space, so it wasn't so quantized, it wasn't so on point. I didn't want it to be perfect, it needed to be rough, so hence why I added that as well. Right, so then I was like, we've got to have a hook part, right? So I started messing around with some strings, some tremolo strings, and they were too polished, and I'd have to mess around with them a bit. And I was just like, do you know what? I might have some in another pack somewhere, because I remember having a one-shot pack of just like hits and stabs of different strings and pianos and stuff. So what I did, I went through them, and I managed to find some in key with a little bit of a tweaking going on. But this is what I did for the hook. Really adds to that grimy feel, Just added some simple reverb on it, a little bit of stretching. Yeah, I really like that. That's nice. So that's literally what I added for the hook, and then it just drops out again, and then jumps back straight into the second verse. Also just added a scratch in there. Could have done one on a few fruity scratch or anything, something like that, but I didn't. I had a couple. I had a massive list of scratches, and just drop it out, just to drop it back. Nice little transition back into the verse. Again, just dropping out some certain elements of the track just to fill it out, give it that sort of bounce, give it that momentum to keep flowing. And then I just dropped it out around here for sort of like a bridge section. I haven't actually finished the track yet. I just need to sort of fade it out, maybe change a couple of elements here, but just some slight tweaking. Obviously on all of the parts, I changed up certain elements. So obviously I had the EQ and added the fruity limiter and added a compressor to it just to lift the sound up. Obviously I'm going to do a little bit more editing. The beat itself probably only took me about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to do all the piano, the bass, etc., to have all the elements in, and probably another half hour just slightly tweaking everything. So for example, you can see I've dropped out certain elements of the kick and heightened certain elements in it, and then I did the opposite with the bass pretty much. So where I want the kick to hit, I've dropped out it in the bass, and vice versa, where I want the bass to stand out, I dropped the kick out of it. But I didn't want to polish it. Again, I didn't want to polish it too much. So what I did was I had the bass sort of muddy, mix in a little bit to make it a little bit muddy with the kick, because I didn't want it to be too polished. And you know, if you listen back to those in that era, nothing was really that clean as such, especially sampling. So I wanted it to have that little bit of a muddy feel to it. So yeah, that's pretty much the beat right there. That's it. I just need to finish it up. So yeah, if you've got any questions, just leave a comment below. If you like the video, please hit like. If you're a subscriber, thanks for joining me again in the video. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button for more of these videos and for more beats uploaded. I will upload this beat very soon. Hopefully I'm just going to finish it today. I've got a few other things I need to do, but I'll try and get this beat up for you. So again, thank you very much. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and thanks very much for joining me. See you later.